Explorers, welcome back to the Starfield Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots. I'm here with my co-pilot, Dave Chaffins. Dave, welcome back to our Starship Lorecast. We're blasting off through space, buddy.
Yeah, thank you for adding me to your crew. I was inactive, but now since you started the official podcast, I'm now a member of said crew.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're both co-pilots on the ship, so you could have added
you're the
yourself.
One that greeted me, so maybe next time I can add you. Like we can go back and forth of who adds who.
Got it. Maybe we'll just keep adding each other.
Of this, that I think it's time we part ways.
Yeah, if one of us gets upset with the other, we just part ways and leave the person on the planet.
Right.
Just take off.
Yeah.
But hey, man, welcome back to the show. We were going to have an episode with a guest today. I goofed up some scheduling, so it's just me and Dave again. But Dave, Starfield is out officially now. It is we're done with the pre-release stuff. We're done with all that stuff. It's officially out. Everybody who wants to get their hands on it can play the game. And so Dave and I are going to be going through it. We didn't create our own list of things you should know when starting Starfield because so many other places have already done this. So what we're going to do is we're pulling up the Polygon article about the 23 things you should know before starting Starfield. And we're going to comment on the suggestions that they make because some of these are better than others. And some of them are just a little bit, I don't know. You got to write an article, so you got to come up with something, right? So,
right.
Dave, are you ready to dive into this?
Yeah, I'm ready. Move all power to engines and grav, and let's just
blast
jump
off
into this. There's going to be a lot of good Starfield jokes now that I know the content, baby. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So here, let's start going down this list. We're just going to take these in order. The first one says, this one's mind-blowing, Dave. Everyone's playthrough will be a little different. Have you played an RPG before? What?
Yep. Certainly. It'll be different.
Yep.
You may do something the other person may not do.
I feel like you could say this about any game ever created. They're going to play it differently than you, right? I mean,
unless it's a math problem, I think this is life.
Yeah. Like if you're playing Pac-Man, my playthrough of Pac-Man is going to be different from your playthrough of Pac-Man. Maybe I get 12 levels in and you get 15 levels in. I don't know, but it's going to be different. So let's just move on from that one. Number 2. And this isn't all just us making fun of Polygon. This is us making fun of very specific recommendations because it's like, but some of these are real good. Like we're just calling it how it is. So this one says, don't spend too long choosing a background and traits. How do you feel about that, Dave?
I think it's important to look at and read each trait. Frankly, some of the traits that I've, pretty much all the traits that I've picked have been pretty integral to my character and some of the things that they do, especially the wanted trait that I took. Mm-hmm. The background, I don't know if I've run too much into my background. I think, that's the skills. So yeah, spend a long time thinking about the first 3 skills you want, but outside of that, you're fine. Your actual name of I'm a Ronin. You're not going to be walking around all the planets being hello, it's me, the Ronin. How are you?
I think the only time they reference your background that I've seen so far is in the beginning when we're doing the mining stuff, and then you build your character and they're like, oh yeah, I forgot that you had previously been this or whatever. There's kind of a line there that's to that. But for the most part, it's more about your individual traits that you pick. So being, I don't know, hero worshipped by the fan and having him follow around with you has a big impact on your playthrough. Being wanted has a big impact on your playthrough. Being part of the Freestar Collective opens up a whole bunch of things that you couldn't do otherwise. There's these are important. I think that part of the fun of the game is designing your character. Right?
Yeah, you should. I mean, it's not uncommon for you to spend an hour on this. Yeah. That's not uncommon. 30 minutes to an hour, I think, is a good time to spend with a character creator for a big RPG. I mean, Baldur's Gate came out. When you go to play D&D, you have a session 0 so you can set up your character.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, these
I think it's fun.
Yeah, and then designing character the way you look. Of course, you can change it later, but that all of that seems important to me. It's so important that this is a little plug over on my Robots Radio YouTube channel. I've been creating character builds. So if you want to pick stuff that's going to make a character that plays like Han Solo or the Mandalorian or something like that, I've pulled out all the stuff that you need to pick, and now you can just build your character and go with it. So I think this is one of the most fun parts, and maybe don't skip it. Don't get through it too fast. Sure, you want to get to the rest of the game. Absolutely. But if you're really role-playing the game, you want to pick stuff that makes sense.
Yeah, you're not going to make a perfect character at the beginning of character creation. Like, you're going to have some, like, you're not going to make yourself up in character creation, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Number 3, play the main story missions for a while. I think this one's pretty good. This one makes sense to me.
Yeah. And it talks about, if you go into detail knowledge, it talks about the quest into the unknown, which is kind of like a separating point. Pretty much once you get the main companions from Constellation, that's where I'm at. I went ahead and I have all the like main companions, I guess, from Constellation. I went ahead and did that. And then I've just been like goofing off to other stuff. And honestly, that helped introduce me to a few different areas that necessarily didn't think about or didn't get to see right off the bat, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. Doing a significant portion of your main quest will take you around to very key locations and planets and moons and things. It will introduce you to a bunch of characters. It might get you far enough in the quest line where you unlock, maybe we don't go into spoilers yet because this game just came out, but you unlock some extra stuff that you can use for your character. So doing that stuff makes sense. Now, a lot of people have the question of like, well, do I need to play through the main storyline first and get to New Game Plus? Because that opens up some other stuff and changes the game a little bit. And from what I've seen, because I haven't done this myself yet, but I've looked into it, the answer is no, you don't need to. You don't need to rush through the game to get to New Game Plus. So play it as you want, get through different stuff. For me, I've gotten a significant portion of the way through the main quest, and I am now delving into a lot of the other side content because I want to see what some of the faction content is like, and I want to see what some of like the random missions and you know, just the stuff that pops up out of nowhere is like, and I want to, you know, get kind of a glimpse at everything going on in the game. So I think this tip is actually pretty good.
Right. I agree.
All right. So next one, number 4, you can join every faction. I think this one's worth knowing. Just because you join one faction doesn't mean you can't join another. And the 4 main factions in this game are the United Colonies Vanguard, the Crimson Fleet, the Freestar Rangers, and Ryujin Industries. So that's like Neon City stuff, which makes sense. Each of those are 3 factions for the 3 main big cities. And then the Crimson Fleet, which is all over the place because you got missions having to do with them all the time. So any thoughts on this one?
I think that, you know, you can get to a certain point, I think, where your reputation could be affected by what you do in the faction. But other than that, like, and there's ways to circumvent that. Like, you're really not, you're not locked out of stuff just because you made a decision. This isn't like I chose this pathway, so this is my ending. Right. I tried
I got the Brotherhood of Steel. Now I can't go further in the Institute, like that kind of thing. Right. Yeah. So, okay. Number 5, many features are locked behind skills. I think this is also very important, specifically if you want to do any lock picking, any pickpocketing, using your boost pack, stealth, targeting systems on when you're doing the flight combat stuff. If you want to target specific systems on the thing you're shooting at, you need targeting control systems for that. So those are kind of the main ones that I think if you are interested in doing any of that stuff and you want the ability to do it, even conversation stuff, even persuasion, you need that too. So yes, absolutely know that those things you can't do until you have at least one skill in each of those things.
Yeah, I've missed out on, so like I got boost pack. I think that was my first one because I was like, okay, so everything has a boost pack, but I missed out because I wanted to be like, my playthrough is like, I am a freaking pirate. I am a terrible person.
Okay.
So targeting control systems is something I was like, how do I disable ships? How do I I want to disable their engine. How do I shoot that?
Yeah.
You got to get targeting control systems. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I got to get this. If you want to fly bigger ships, you got to put points into your pilot. Like there's some stuff that's kind of locked out that way. Research stuff, outpost stuff. It's worth looking into pretty much every single one of the skills to see what kind of lines and build yourself up in what categories you want to unlock them.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of the research is gated behind your skills. Like you can only do a little bit of research in different kinds of things until you open up skills to do more. So, which plays into what Todd Howard said about how like the crafting, the researching, a lot of that stuff is more later game stuff because you got to hit enough levels in order to unlock the skills to get really deep into that content. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so that's something worth knowing. If you really want to focus on one of those things or you want to get all of those things, you need to make sure you put points into them and kind of allocate that. The next one says, get the boost pack training, security, and persuasion skills ASAP. This kind of follows through with the idea that this stuff is locked. Boost packs are going to help you get to even just heights that you normally couldn't get to, climb over things, get up on things, navigate, like make your way through the planets you land on so you can jump up on rocks and stuff. That also helps in combat. You can't hack anything through security and you can't convince people of stuff very well without persuasion. So you need those things. So absolutely. I think those are, if you want to use those at all, which is kind of a big part of the game, absolutely make sure to pick those up. Any thoughts, Dave?
That seems pretty obvious compared to what we talked about. I think we went into depth there.
Cool. All right. Use auto hack and auto persuade often. This is one that I don't do because I like picking and doing the locks myself. I like picking the conversation stuff and persuasion. I've always stayed away from the auto lock pick mechanic in previous games and that kind of thing. What do you think about this one?
I'm really trying hard not to save scum this, I'm trying to just let things play out. So I haven't used auto hack, or I think ever. I've used auto persuade a few times just because I get to it. Like there was a situation where I had hostages. Well, I didn't have hostages. Another person had the hostages, and my whole character is like, I'm not trying to kill criminals. I'm trying to be a criminal. But if I run into a situation where a criminal is doing something that I need to stop, I'm going to be like, all right, man, listen, I'm a criminal too. You're a criminal. We can be friends. Let's just figure this out. And
you like to kill people? I like to kill people. Best friends?
Best friends. So I used that for that, and that it completed that, and I got the result that I wanted. Do I feel like I earned it? Maybe. I don't know. I've saved up enough in that auto persuasion thing there. So
okay.
I've used it.
Yeah, maybe I'll play with it a little bit. I just haven't been doing it, and I've failed some persuasion, and I haven't failed the lockpicks because if you just spend enough time and look at it enough, you'll figure it out. But maybe it's worth doing if it saves some time getting through some of the content or whatever. All right, the next one. How do you feel about this? Navigating and fast travel involve a lot of menus. I don't feel like that's a tip. That's just a comment.
That's just a comment. Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
Here's what I will say about this: is I wish that this is somebody who has I have a degree in geography. I have a degree in making maps. That's what I do for a living. As I make maps. This game could do better. It could do better with maps. It is, I like being able to, I don't mind the Mass Effect style of maps that they have when they're saying, okay, we go out to the solar system and then here's all these planets and you go into them. That's fine. It's just kind of finicky. Like when I'm trying to go from I don't know, the Kree system down to the Sol system. And now I can say it's so nice to play this game because now I can say all these things and sound confident. Going from the Kree system down to the Sol system, and I just want to jump there so I can jump off to another place. I have to rotate my camera weird. I guess on the Xbox, I'm having to rotate it around kind of strangely. So, I mean, it's true. I don't have any tips on that. I can't offer any kind of hey, here's how you can do this better. Other than commiserate with that's kind of weird to move the map around. But I mean, that's pretty a small, a small thing.
That's a small complaint for such a big game. And right. It's not like you can't, it's not functional. It's just a little bit. I mean, anything that's going to map 1,000 star systems is going to be a little obtuse.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
That's just kind of the nature of it. I think what this is actually trying to say is sometimes you don't want to just go through all the menus, which there's a lot. So pick your quest and then fast travel because that's what's so nice about that is that you don't have to go, okay, this quest says I need to go to the Sol system and I need to land on Venus. And so now I've got to open the map and find it, click on it, see if I can fast travel, see if I can grav jump there. If it's too far away, I need to find something else to grav jump to first. And it's not that complex. Most of the time you can just choose the quest, say set course, and then go. And it's good, right, unless it's just further than you can grav jump. And then you have to back up and go, okay, maybe I need to discover some planets along the way first. And then you got to figure that out, which makes sense. If you haven't been there, it's so far away, then you're going to have to find the path. So that totally makes sense. And that plays into the next one. Set course is the most helpful button in your menu. Absolutely. Just like pick the quest that you want to do. Make sure you select it. And then like, so that it's queued up for like, you're following that quest specifically right now. I've done this a few times where I've set course to somewhere, but I was still tracking a previous quest. And I got to that location, and then the little blue dot was like, "Oh, you need to go way over there." And I was like,
"Yeah, I've done that too."
Wait a minute. Yeah, so it's almost like set course should auto default to now choosing that as your quest, but it just doesn't. But yeah, I find like that's the easiest way to navigate around if you want to just get from one place to another. I would also give the alternate tip of, if you want to see more of the content that just kind of happens as you're playing through the game, don't use set course as much, don't auto travel as much. Actually choose a planet, fly to it, see what happens when you get in orbit, if any, events pop up or whatever, and you'll have a very different experience. It's the difference between fast traveling across Skyrim and running from, Whiterun to Markarth or whatever, and just seeing what happens along the way.
I want to detail one of the events that I had happen very shortly. I fast traveled to a system because I needed to jump to a different one. A ship came into orbit and was like, "Hey, I'm Mrs. Blah, blah, blah. I'm a teacher and we're all on a school trip here. And here are all the kids." Uh-huh. And the kids are like, Oh, ask him for the ship part. Get him to give us ship parts. They were like, "Oh, do you have any ship parts? But also, don't cause us any trouble." And the kids are like, "Oh, what if he's a pirate? What if he's a pirate?" And since I was a pirate, I could be like,
"Oh no,
yeah, I'm a pirate." And then all the kids on this like spaceship are like, "He's a pirate. That's so cool. Oh my gosh, can I talk to the pirate? Please, can I talk to the pirate?" And there's like one kid in the back that's like, "No, not pirates. I hate pirates."
That's great. That's amazing.
The teacher's like, "No, we don't need any ship parts. Thanks. See you later. Bye."
Wow, I haven't discovered that. Yeah, that's a fun one. Yeah, I would imagine that it plays out differently depending on what you say.
Depending on what you do, yeah. But that's one of the things that you get when you just like fast travel places, is like these like little things that if you've like built your character enough and have a few things, you can have some really interesting dialogue and like talking with the world, and it feels a little bit more alive, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've come across a few. I don't want to spoil too much, but there are some really good ones that you can come across. All right, next one says, use your scanner to figure out where to go. I think this is a great tip, especially when you're running around on a planet.
Yeah, and the middle crosshair on your scanner will tell you distance to an object. So if you're looking away at a piece on the ground, it'll be like, oh yeah, like we have a picture in front of us that'll have that has like 14 meters. But if you're like up on top of a hill looking at a facility down the way, like if you point your scanner on that, it's going to give you that like how many meters it is to the next facility. Yeah. And if you have a little icon in the distance and it's like an unknown icon, you just have to scan, point at it, click it, and it'll tell you what kind of thing it is, like a natural structure or an industrial complex or whatever kind of thing it might be, which clues you a little bit more into, should I go check that out or not, depending on what you're looking for. So that's very helpful. Make sure you use your scanner a lot, especially when you're just picking up junk all over the a map. It outlines everything, obviously, but you very quickly learn the different shapes of outlines and are able to just kind of process, these are things I want to pick up. Oh, this is just like folders and garbage and cups on the ground. Over here, oh, there's a chest. That's a big chest looking thing. That's a body. I should take stuff off the body. And it helps you just parse the environment faster. Right. So I think this one's actually a really good tip. Read signs. What do you think? I think that's a really good tip in general. Just in life. Just pay attention to the signs. They're there for a reason.
Yeah, there's stuff that I mean, even just simply the signs of the different buildings you can go in to know what this building is and what they sell or any of that stuff. But even things like so many people are commenting online about the door that's sealed, and the actual text on the door says like cut the locks, the 4 locks on the sides of the door in order to open the door. Like it tells you how to get through the door. You just gotta shoot the lock, like the bolts.
There's a lot of context, and I think it helps like understand, like it helps you with your memory of where things are, because you're not like you were coming up. This is a classic geography like mental thing. Everybody has a mental map of what they do. That could be like where your house is, how you perceive it, and if you are making your own mental map of stuff, like this game, we talked about a little bit about the maps, but if you're making your own mental map, you're going to have a better time of finding stuff in the future because you're going through layouts of things. Like if you're playing Starfield, you probably have a good idea of the layout of New Atlantis. You may have a good idea of the layout of Achilles City or Neon or one of those places. Like you're gonna know that. Like the key where the Crimson Raiders are, I'm like, yeah, I got it. I know where everybody is. I have like everything mentally laid out, how to get everywhere. I don't need markers anymore because it's just all there.
Yeah, I think there's some brilliance to this because Todd Howard has regularly said that he hates mini maps. Everybody has to mod in mini maps into his games. And his point to that is when you use the mini map a lot, you end up just looking at the mini map and following your little arrow around a map rather than paying attention to the environment. And this game very specifically doesn't have a mini map, but it also doesn't have super useful on the ground like maps of locations. Because to your point, I think they want you to actually experience the location you would in the way that you would if you were walking around it, because it's a role-playing game and you want to pay attention to, like, there's a side street here. I went down it. Now I remember that this store is at the end of the side street, or these signs here tell me to go in this direction for this part of town. And that you build out, like you're saying, your mental maps, but that makes the world feel more lived in. It makes these real, like everybody who's played Skyrim remembers the layout of Whiterun. We all know how to get from one place to another and what each of the buildings are because we've done it so much. You don't need a mini map for that. But if we were all playing that game running around with a mini map, that's what we would remember is the mini map, not the actual physical location. And I think that's kind of genius.
Yeah, I think the modern games like mapping and how you map stuff is very important to especially a lot of the exploration. When I think about Zelda, like you are kind of making your own map as you go along. Like you're discovering, well, I guess they're called shrines or something. You're discovering those, but you can place your own points on there of like, hey, over here, there's this thing. Like you're making your own map. Or games like Fallout 76, where you have a kind of a cartoon version of the map, like the map that you get in game that has like, it's like a tour, it's like a Disneyland map of like, hey, there's this thing over here. Everywhere is like super stylized, but nothing is like true to the picture. Like nothing's going to tell you, oh, go down this road and do this thing. It's like you're looking at kind of like a theme park map and trying to figure out where to go next based on these locations.
Right. I like a subway map where it's not actually to scale in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Yeah.
But I like going through Neon and kind of looking at all the shops and being like, oh yeah, that's Outfitters. So they definitely have some space suits in here. It's like, oh, here's some ship parts. Like you're kind of like reading these signs and stylized, and you're building out some of that world.
Yeah, the same way you would if you were physically in that space. You'd have to look at the signs like you're walking through a town and be like, oh, that's the shop over there for that thing. That's where you go for other stuff. Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense. We've got some more to get through, but first we got to go thank our patrons, because we have a Patreon now and we have 9 new patrons to thank. So we're going to take a quick break, go thank our patrons, read some reviews, and we'll be right back. So don't go anywhere. All right, here we are in the middle of the show. This is where we get to thank our patrons for being freaking amazing. Here we go. Check this out. We have 9 patrons who have signed up just in the last week since we launched this. Thank you and welcome to Dewey, Planet Adcon, Woden Ruckus, Turbo Toboggan, Brad S, Nova D, Some of these, I'm not sure if these are actual names, so I'm trying to like hide last names or not. I don't think this one's actually Nova Dakomaru. Maybe a real name. Benjamin P, Micah S, and Remington C. Thank you for joining. Some of these names I recognize from the other Patreons, from the other Lorecast shows. Welcome. And a number of you, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you have signed up for the Join Us at the End of the Month chat, which will happen in a few weeks on a Monday night. That'll be on Monday the 25th. So if you sign up over the next few weeks, you can join us, talk about your experiences in Starfield. And every month we will decide on a different topic based on our patrons and what our patrons want to talk about. So that's coming up. Super excited about that. And thank you all for the support. We really do appreciate it. If you're interested in joining us on the Patreon, getting ad-free episodes, t-shirts are up, stickers, joining us in chats, things like that. Check out all the different tiers at patreon.com/StarfieldLorecast. Also, if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, which by the way, Dave, we hit 4th. You pointed this out to me earlier today. We are 4th place in Apple Podcasts video game podcasts right now. That's insane.
We're living the big time. Like we're out here, here I am, this collection of CDs over here. You know what? I could probably elevate those to records now with that level of fame. Like we're really see these Legos. I could build my own skyscrapers with the amount of podcast fame that we're getting from the statistical charts that we've looked at.
Yeah, but really what this comes down to is you, and thank you for checking out the show. Thank you for leaving 5-star reviews. Thank you for being here, because we couldn't do it without you. We could put out a show, but if nobody shows up, then nobody listens to the show, right? So thank you to all of you. Here are some reviews that came in over this last week. This one is from Game Man 5000 in the US, who writes, a very fun podcast, fun conversations, and lots of bad jokes. So it's perfect for me. Keep doing what you are doing. Love it. Thank you for that. Woden Ruckus, who joined us on the Patreon, wrote one. This one says, this is the Starcast. I mean, these guys have just been so hungry for years to start traveling to Starfield, and they haven't shut up about it. And I've been taking that enthusiasm all in. For some reason, none of my friends are talking about this game, so it's really nice to hear some fellow nerds just get super hyped. Game's about to get released, and so will the content. Some earlier predictions were spot on, and some, I felt so bad listening to Dave cling on to his hope that it'll come out on PS5. Get a PC, you bozo. No, but this is the Starfield podcast, and if you like Starfield and you like podcasts, then it's not even a question. I'm sorry it didn't come out on PlayStation.
That's fine, because I'm sporting my Xbox Series S over here. I made that decision during the pandemic when I had a lot more time, but hungry for years. I like that.
Yeah,
pretty much that's going to be my catchphrase. This is Dave Chafin's hungry for years.
Yeah, our first episode came out 3 years ago in October.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wow. And we got one more. So thank you, Woden. Then one more from Good 112233. In the United States. All of these are from the US. Best Starfield podcast, easy. I've been running through all the available podcasts in anticipation for the release of every other podcast is garbage. In comparison, keep it up, fellas. Well, I'm sure some of them are good. Okay. I haven't checked them all out, so this is not my opinion. I hope there's some other good Starfield podcasts out there, but thank you for the 5-star review. That's going to do it for the mid-break. Let's get back to our list of stuff. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. So next one on the list, Dave. This one's a little bit, the way it's phrased is a little bit off. It says you can equip multiple weapons. What they're
That's
actually
the Gunzerker trait from Borderlands 2, like
right?
Just like
lots of guns. I mean, really, what they're saying is you can favorite weapons to quickly swap between them.
Right.
So
Fallout 4 style. Play Fallout 4. They got that.
Yeah,
it's here now.
Yeah, it was even Skyrim. You can favorite stuff in Skyrim. Yeah. So like, yes, you can favorite stuff, and then you don't have to go all the way through the menus. You can just quickly swap when you need to. So go do that. Easy tip. All right, next one. There are lots of kinds of ammo. Another statement? That's not really a tip.
Let me tell you, it's a true statement.
It's true. It's a true
statement.
My tip here would be, because there's lots of kinds of ammo, make sure you pick all the ammo you find just in case you get a weapon that needs that ammo.
Or maybe you want to sell it. Maybe you're like, I'll never use a shotgun. That's not me.
Yeah, you could do that too. You could do that too. Yeah, just be aware. Lots of different kinds of ammo. Also, on the ammo tip line, this one actually feels like a tip. Ammo and some other things weigh nothing. That's a good tip because you can just keep on grabbing ammo. Some of the notes in the game don't weigh anything, so just hold on to them. You don't have to drop them. They're not going to slow you down.
Yep, med packs, dig picks, that kind of stuff, all weigh nothing.
Did you say you said digipicks, not dick pics, right?
I said dig.
Okay.
With a G. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
I've been reading that wrong the whole time. Wait a second.
Because that sounded like a dirty picture somebody sends you of their nether regions. But that's I haven't found one of those in the game yet.
I mean, I have a lot of, as I call them, dig pigs. That's the podcast is hard to. Yeah, I haven't read that word, and I've forgot an I there.
Yeah, it's okay.
Digipicks, I think all around.
Digipick, like digital lockpick. But yeah,
I thought we were like digging in there with a pick. Like here's the door.
Yeah, dig. G is way better than a CK on that word. All right, next one on the list. Free med packs. While you are looting your way across the settled systems, you'll need to watch for a little red arrow next to the item you're considering. If it's there, taking the item is stealing and you might get into trouble. A useful exception to this seems to be first aid stations for the most part. You'll see a lot of them around, but not all of the time, the med packs and other aid items inside are safe to take no matter where you are. So this is true unless you go to like actual hospitals and places like that, where sometimes that stuff is actually stealing.
Yeah, that's just a life tip. And now I'm imagining people going to their AED station at work being like, I really need this. I'm gonna put the AED in.
Oh man, I ran out of Band-Aids and alcohol.
Rifling through everything wildly.
Yeah, just stocking up. Thanks, Fork. So yeah, that's a tip. Next one, you don't have to wear that. This feels like a life lesson. You don't have to wear that. So it's in here. We'll read into this a little bit more. A 21st century truth apparently holds true in the 24th century too. A suit looks way better than a spacesuit. In your inventory under the spacesuits tab, you can tab RB on Xbox to either show or hide your spacesuit when you're in a settlement, making it so that you can walk around in your street clothes instead. You can do the same to your helmet under the helmets tab. So yeah, I've thought this is pretty funny. I haven't changed the setting. I did notice this, but I do think it's pretty funny when you're just like in a regular place walking around in your full spacesuit, and some characters will comment on it. They'll go, wow, a little overdressed, huh? Like that kind of stuff.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think. I have mine activated, but it's funny when they decide like when it's time to wear the spacesuit.
Yeah.
Because like I had a mission that was outside of Aquila City, and so I'm running and I'm in my street clothes, and then I get through some like it's like an invisible barrier. Like I don't know. It was just like a plane, I guess, a digital plane that had no like level, but when you go past it, it was like, oh, now I'm wearing my spacesuit. It's like now I'm in space.
This is like
there's no way to tell. It's like a state line. Like now you're in South Carolina.
I imagine in like the game design screen, there's probably like a cube for like if you're past this part, this is like space area, and if you're inside this part, this is like safe zone or something.
This is the casual zone, and once you're outside of that, you got to go in the formal zone.
Right. All right, next one on the list. Value is not the same as sell price. This is interesting. Sure, you'll use some of the loot you pick up because it's better than what you have equipped, but for the most part, you're filling your inventory with stuff to sell. When you look at any item in your inventory, it will have a value, the number of credits it's worth. The important thing to note here, though, is that the value is not the same as the price a vendor will pay you. The sell price starts out around 13% of the value. You can improve those numbers by putting points in the commerce skill. I feel like this is another one of those, like if you played other Bethesda games, you've probably noticed this before.
Yeah, and it's disappointing when here I am being a pirate in my pirate days, and then I go and steal a ship that's worth about 100,000 credits, and I'm like, all right, cool. And then I fly my ship back to the dock, and they're like, oh, hey, you stole a ship that's worth 10,000 credits. I'm like,
What?
Okay, yeah, 10% up. They're like, hey, if you want to fly this ship, maybe you should register it for 8,000 credits. I'm like, wait. I have to pay you 8,000 credits to say that I own this ship that I definitely own. Like, yeah. So then you got to register it. And in order to sell it, guess what you have to do? Register it. So at the end of the day, $100,000 ship, $2,000. You know what I say to that? I say that's why I'm in the Crimson Fleet. That's exactly why.
That's why
Settled
pirating is the thing.
No good. That's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, but it makes sense though, because that could be a really fast way. If you could just get a $100,000 ship by stealing it from somebody and then selling it for that price, that would be a really easy way to break the economy in the rest of the game. So
when you're a master pirate like me, though, some rules need to bend.
Yes. Yeah. And there's ways around some of this stuff a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah.
For sure. So look into that. I've already seen some videos about like best way to make money and all that. Juicehead had one that I think went up today. All right. So next one, use the trade kiosks every time you land on a planet. I think this is a very important one because oftentimes you have more stuff than you're able to offload and sell because everybody has limited amounts of money that they can buy your stuff with. So if you don't make a point to sell things when you have the opportunity, you end up over encumbered or your ship gets too full and then you end up with a bunch of stuff you can't get rid of because you can't just offload it to one kiosk or one vendor. You have to find multiple. So making a point to do this regularly will keep your inventory down. Any other thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, I remain over encumbered consistently. So I'm constantly trying to be like, hey, do you want this 20 aluminum?
Hey,
10
I found an
pounds.
Earth baseball. You want to give me 600 credits for it?
Yeah. And suits. I mean, I imagine, you're carrying around a giant spacesuit and you got 3 of them. Like on your person at once, that's a lot of room. But here's what I don't understand is you got this giant ship, but I guess it's, based on cargo storage, but my workaround of throwing everything in the floor also works. So that's what I've been doing is just like I've maxed out my cargo hold down the ship and I'm just, as I said before, unbuckling my belt, letting it all hang out and going free and loose,
Yeah. We need to, we need to have, what's it called when your friends get around and then they're like, hey, you really need to work on this. There's a word for that.
An intervention.
We need to have an intervention, a hoarder's intervention for you.
Yes.
But it's not a multiplayer game, so unless the NPCs decide to do that for you, I think you're just going to have to be that way, Dave. Which seems fine. You seem happy with it. I'm not going to judge.
The NPCs that I have on my ship actually did that recently. They recently had an intervention with me because being, I'm a pirate. So I saw a giant bank ship going by and I attacked it and literally like my screen started filling up with the number of notifications. Everyone disliked that. And they're like, hey, I need to talk to you. Hey, you make Cora cry. And I need to talk to you and Barrett needs to talk to you because and everyone hated that. And people are no longer following you just because I attacked one ship. They're all like, yep, nope. So I got to get a crew that's a little more unsavory than the Constellation folk for my normal.
Sounds antics. Like it. Yeah. You made a little girl cry. That's terrible.
I did.
Oh, Dave, you're a monster. Next tip says you can mine asteroids for resources. This is one of those ones that I'm see pop up all the time, and I'm surprised a lot of people don't know. But yeah, if you're in an asteroid field, shoot at them. They blow up. You get stuff.
Yeah,
it's not hard.
Those asteroids.
Get it. Next one on this, we have 3 left. You can get a house at the start. That's a trait. If you did like this list says, and you don't take a lot of time during the character creation, you may have missed this. You
wouldn't know.
But if you actually read all the traits, you'd realize that you can get a house at the start. You just got to pick the dream home trait.
Right.
So there you go. And it costs you 500 credits a week, but that's a pittance. That's a small amount.
500 is pretty low. Like if my mortgage was like $500 a week. Hang on.
That would be like 2,000 something a month.
That's never mind.
That's a pretty standard mortgage rate.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. Second to last one, the flashlight is kind of useless. How do you feel about this one?
The scanner is more useful than the flashlight because the scanner is going to highlight in the blue outlines in the dark areas of what's important. But if I'm in a dark little cubby hole and I'm just all up in there with my little laser pistol, like I'm going to be pulling out my scanner and not my flashlight. You know what I mean?
But you can use both at the same time. Why not both? You can just use
there's
both.
there's just a lot of light. That's too much light.
But if you're in a dark room, like if you're in, like some of the rooms you go in, like some of the caves and some of the buildings that are like messed up and everybody's dead are pretty dark. There's some dark corners, and there are definitely times where I've been like, oh, it's a good thing I have a flashlight. I can just turn it on and see what's in the corner.
I've used the flashlight in mines. I think mines is the main place. Otherwise, I don't use it.
Yeah. Drunkard in chat says $2,000 a month is not a standard mortgage anymore. Yeah, that is getting less and less true, isn't it?
If you up your commerce skill IRL, then you're going to get really good dividends on that mortgage, but you got to make sure you invest your points into that. And we only level up once a year. So you got to make sure.
Right. Yeah. It also, and to Ben's in the chat, it depends where you live, depends the size of the house you get. Some places are a lot better than others. Anyway, this is not the housing mortgage show. Last point on this list. Yes, console commands exist on PC. So far, you can't do that on Xbox. But what that means, and I think this is extremely useful because I always end up doing this eventually, is that you can turn on console commands to give yourself like unlimited carry capacity and other things too. But I feel like that's the most important. If I'm going to use a console command, it will be just to carry more crap. And I know that kind of breaks the game, but at some point with multiple playthroughs, you just don't want to have to fight menus and weight limits anymore. You just kind of want to get to the good stuff. So I feel like that's like the most freeing thing you could possibly do. The drawback from this is that it gets rid of achievements. You can't actually trigger achievements if you have console commands running. So there's a trade-off if you like achievements. There's a solution to that trade-off in that every Bethesda game ever has a mod or several mods that people have released where you can re-enable achievements while also using console commands. So you can kind of cheat the system that way as too. But this all comes down to who you are and what you find acceptable with your own playthrough and what you're willing to do for yourself. So those are options. You make the choice. Dave, do you feel bad about not having console commands on Xbox?
No, because frankly, console commands when I was a kid playing Morrowind, like really, I mean, it made that experience because that world was the same. But then going back and trying to play Oblivion and Morrowind on this, I was like, okay, how does all this work? Because I just I goofed around. I goofed around too much and I got tired of not leveling up and did some console commands when I was a kid. But now I got to hit this rat 100 times with Soul Trap. So I'm happy not to have this. I don't need them. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, I also find that they're useful if you are a content creator and you're wanting to spawn things in order to create specific kinds of videos. So you could spawn in characters or items. You could go to specific locations easier. There's a lot of things you can do with console commands that, and I would recommend having a separate set of saves for that stuff so it doesn't mess up your main game. But if you're looking to be like, oh, I want to do videos to see if this crazy monster on this planet could beat this other crazy monster on another planet, you can totally do that. You just spawn the characters in and let them fight. That it's very useful for really creative aspects beyond just making the game easier for yourself and turning on God mode or something, which you could totally do if that's what you want to do with the game. But I feel like if you go too far down that route, to your point, you're kind of screwing the experience up. You're not really enjoying it.
Then you go to the
way.
dark side, and then we got to get you a big black helmet and a red sword.
Black helmet and a red sword. I have no idea what you're talking about. Cool. Speaking of black helmets and red swords, people are already. And this is in other news. We're done with the list here, but that reminded me that.
Yeah, that's all the tips you'll ever need to know. Congratulations.
There you go. That's it. That's everything. But in the modding Discord, people are already working on full conversion mods for Star Wars and some other stuff. I'm sure it's going to take years because Skyblivion isn't even done yet, but eventually we'll end up with some really cool mods based on this game and the updates to the engine and all of the stuff that we can now do in Starfield, which is super exciting.
Yeah, I think the modding stuff is really cool. I'm always curious about the long-term projects and how those work. And like Sky Oblivion looks awesome, but there's been, for years has been other ones that have kind of fizzled out. I'm interested in some of the shorter term stuff of, what they can do with some quests. I'm curious about, what was it? Like the Forgotten City guy that made, the one with all the Dwemer stuff and Skyrim. Like that's like just a quest and an underground dungeon. And it was like super intricate and there was a lot of stuff going on, but it wasn't like this, we're, making an entire planet of this and that. Like that kind of stuff. I'm really interested to see what people can come up with when it comes to space stations or, settlements, that kind of stuff.
I'm excited for expanded random encounters. Because once you play through any of these games, even though they're huge, eventually you start to see everything again and again, especially if you do multiple playthroughs. But to have a mod where people are modding in like really ridiculous random encounters when you land at new planets or whatever, or in space, that sounds super exciting because who knows what people are going to come up with and all the wacky things. I also like, some fun new items and gear. And the other thing that I really want to see is one of those random encounters to be the spaceship with the ghouls from New Vegas who take off into space.
Yeah, they come back. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see that. I want to see ghouls. And I also want their character models to be the same ones from New Vegas. So they're like lower poly and bad textures.
That would be amazing. Or the Hubologist from Fallout Nuka World. That's it. Mm-hmm. Fallout 4 Nuka World. The Hubologists that have the spaceship that are definitely not Scientologists.
Yes. That's I can't wait for that stuff. But that's going to do it for this episode this week. Thank you for tuning in. If you are looking for more Starfield content, I've already posted some videos on the Robots Radio YouTube channel for character builds for like Han Solo and The Mandalorian. So go check that stuff out. Dave, you got other stuff going on too. What do you got?
Yeah, I've got some other Starfield stuff going on with Rad Rolls is doing their limited series using the Cypher system to play a game in Starfield where everyone is prisoners of the Freestar Collective. We're all on a penal colony ship going to jail. And things go awry on that ship. There is a ghost ship. There is some sort of mutiny. The whole setting actually we did right before the game came out, but it ended up being pretty true for a lot of the different scenarios and stuff we were coming up with. So it's worth a listen. It's pretty fun to get in there and kind of play characters from a different thing. But that's on the Rad Rolls podcast. You can find that on everywhere, YouTube, podcast services, all that stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, go check out Rad Rolls. Also go to robotsradio.net for my other shows and a bunch of other shows on the network, including the Fallout Lorecast and the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. So if you're into Bethesda games, I've got shows about that stuff and all sorts of other fun things. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with some guests to talk about their experiences and see what their thoughts are on Starfield. Again, we're trying to stay away from being too spoilery, at least for these first few episodes. But very soon, maybe starting next month, we'll get into some of the deep lore stuff and get really digging into the juicy bits because there's so much to talk about in Starfield. So we'll be back next week. We'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. We hope that you enjoyed this show.
Did you know that parodies are copyright protected?
Tell a friend and review
on iTunes
or other services.
Dave and Tom excited for Starfield. Let's all speculate and wear no shoes.
Hey, why aren't we wearing any shoes?
Because shoes rhymes with iTunes, and that's the best I could think of.